All right, welcome, kings and queens. Queen Sheba here. Today we are talking Shanquella Robinson. It has been some time has lapsed since I've covered the Shanquella Robinson case. And I think it's important that I give you a little bit of detail and background as to the reason why. There were really no official updates regarding the Shanquella Robinson case. Okay. So that's why I did not bring you anything because I feel like over here on this page, as well as some other bloggers, we've done a really good job of squeezing out as much as we can about this case. And unfortunately, based on my experience, my observations, I feel like there will not be justice served on the behalf of Shanquella. Yep, buckle your seatbelt. This is not the most exciting news, but I'm going to keep it real with you. Number one, I feel like this because of the place where this happened. And what I mean by the place is the demographic location. This crime occurred in Mexico. We can stop there and log off because that should have told you everything. Okay. Number two, Zuniga, the reporter, the journalist from Mexico. Go to his page, and this is not a slight to him. This is a second reason I know, or I feel very strongly there will not be justice. He's on to other things. He's covering other things. You guys, there's nothing more that's going to come from this. And I'm going to cover all of that and the reason why I believe so. Okay. Unfortunately, I think we missed the mark. I think we had a sweet time spot if there was going to be justice. But if you back up, don't get pissed off about it not being justice, because here's why. There was never supposed to be justice for this in the first place. If you think about what happened and when it happened and how it happened, Mexico swept this under the rug from day one and attempted to close this out as alcohol poisoning. They never anticipated the backlash that they would receive from those of us here in North America on this side, right? On this side. And because of the pushback and the outcries for advocacy and justice, we forced their hands. And in that moment, that was our time spot. That was the sweet spot for Shanquella's family, the public, to continue to just hammer down hard. And I told you, I said, they're going to play with us and they're going to drag this out. And everybody's going to kind of pick up and move on to the next hot topic, to which people have done. And that's just the way the world works. So I'm going to cover some things for you. But for those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television. But most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. All right, so I'm going to do this final update. As we've always done, we keep an outline, and there's a few things that I would like to cover with you, okay, regarding, this case, where we went wrong, and why I feel like there will be no justice. And actually, it's just not a feeling. I think you guys, sometimes you just look at the writing on the wall. There's little to no public interest in getting or gaining justice for Shanquella. At this point, I think it's safe to say her friends and family have accepted it and moved on. So here's a couple of things that we are going to cover today. We're going to cover femicide. Number 2, what if there was no video? Number 3, there's more than meets the eye to this case. Of course, we've been saying that all along. Number 4, Shanquella's parents and Shanquella's family. And last but not least, number 5, who was Shanquella? Y'all, the thrill is gone. The thrill is gone. I said it in my introduction. I'll say it one more time. The Mexican journalist has moved on, and so has Mexico. Mexico has no interest in prosecuting this case. Women being killed in Mexico is nothing new to them. This was new to us, right? This is new to us. This was shocking to us, but this is normal. This is a normality in their country. And although people push back, they're up against systems They're up against operations, and they know better. Okay. We made a lot of noise, but let me tell you a little bit about femicide. Okay. Mexico has saw more than 1,000 femicides in 2022. So of 1,000 femicides, if we look at it from the angle of Mexico, Shanquella was just one of the many. Okay. Mexico, when you think about Mexico, okay, femicide is actually nothing new. It's almost like it's bred into the culture of that country. Okay. And when the advocates and the people that, that cry out for justice, they try to push back, they get nowhere. Okay. Because Mexico, the officials in Mexico have recognized that the femicide rate and violence against women, y'all, it's existed for decades within Mexico. It has existed in decades. And here's the reason why they're having a hard time really addressing it, because they attribute it to cultural machismo. That's where what the men say, the machismo, the masculinity of it all. And that's where women are just objects. They don't really matter anyway. Okay. In certain machismo cultures. Number 2, gender inequity. When I say they don't matter, women are not looked at as equal. So they're not valued, and neither are their lives. Number 2. Number 3, domestic violence is common in a lot of foreign countries, particularly Mexico. And when you think about justice, what have we been saying for day one? The justice system within Mexico, you guys, it's tainted. You have the police officers that did not, in this case, Shanquella's case, take reports, or if they do, they falsify documents, very, very sloppy investigations. And also, it's their fault. It's often the woman's fault. And they try to close this out as Shanquella's fault, right? Based on some of the characteristics that I just outlined. Number 1, she drank too much. It was alcohol poisoning. Number 2, the clumsy investigation. The report, not only written by the Mexican police, the officials that showed up, but the doctor. Y'all, they're just doing what they do. Good old Mexico, right? That's what they do, you guys. They're crooked. So when we talk about femicide, this is nothing new to Mexico, which is why I say there will be no justice served on the behalf of Shanquella, because she was killed in Mexico. And I actually believe they qualified it as a femicide now on purpose, that we know a little bit more about femicide and what it actually means to Mexican authorities. Okay. If I could qualify it as a femicide, this is nothing new. It's every day. Close it out. So I do believe this case has been closed in Mexico. Number 2, what if? I want you just to sit there and imagine, forget everything you know about this case. Before I give you the what if situation, I'm going to give you two what ifs. My first what if is, what if that fight video was actually released on purpose? And you say, okay, because we felt like it was helpful. It was helpful to us. What if there's so much more involved in this case that they released that fight video on purpose to take us away to take us away from what really happened and what this is really about? I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I held off on it. That's the first what if. What if that fight video was released on purpose to distract us away from everything else that went on in that house? Number 2, what if there was no video? Okay. Say, okay, I'm thinking about this in 2 scenarios. What are your thoughts? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to put them in a chat. What if the video was released on purpose to distract us from what really happened in that house? Number 2, what if there was no video? Let me tell you where I'm going with this. If there was no video made available to us, who would you think broke her neck and injured her spine? There is no way in the world you would have aligned that or thought a woman did that to her. If you didn't see Dejanay hitting her on camera, and we found out that Shanquella had her neck had been broken, and her spinal had been injured, wouldn't you have thought a man done that to her? If you did not see the fight video, absolutely. I want you to think about that, okay? If there was no video, you would not have known. You would have automatically thought a man beat that girl to death. But because we saw Dejanay hitting her, we have to accept that Dejanay is responsible for this. So am I saying that Dejanay is not responsible for this? Nope. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think something else happened in that house. I guarantee you, Mexico authorities, nor have the Cabo Six told the full details of the who, the what, the when, and the why. The when, the where, the why. There was something so sinister that happened in that house, and I do not think that Dejanay had the. I don't think Dejanay was the only person to jump on Shanquella. I think Shanquella was also beat by a male or males. Was it the males in her party? I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I don't think it was just girl on girl. I sure don't. And I never thought that from the get-go. Okay? I never thought that from the get-go. I think that girl had been beaten either prior. See, that tape was just a snippet of what we know. That's all we have to go on. And once somebody shows you something visually, it etches itself in your subconscious. So everything that you begin to think of, it has to go in agreement and alignment with that video. But I'm asking you to think outside the box. What am I asking you to come up with? I'm not sure. I'm just saying there's more than meets the eye to this, okay? There was somebody else in that house. There was more to this, more people, more things. Have you noticed that nobody has ever talked about the chef? I finally saw him, but go back and watch the video. Mexican government never questioned him, and if so, they didn't tell us anything. Have you noticed the only eyewitnesses that they've detailed and documented have been women? Winter, Lucy, and that nurse. Have y'all noticed that? And Dejanay. Those are the only people that they have documented. Lucy, the maid, Dejanay fighting her, the nurse, and Winter. The men have been absolved by documentation of all responsibility. How come they didn't question that chef about the night before? Normally, when a crime is committed, you want as much information as possible, which is why I say Mexico is full of shit. They didn't even think to question the chef and his assistant. So, in my opinion, before I move on to the other point of what I'm trying to say, I believe that they pulled an all-nighter on Shanquella. Something happened in that house, and it did not just start that morning. I'm going to leave you with that. All right, so here's where I'm about to lose all of you. Point number 3. There's more to this case than meets the eye. You said okay Queen Sheba. There's more than meets the eye. We've all been saying that since day one. We have been, but we've never said it the way I'm about to say it. When I say there's more than meets the eye, I think everybody has a little bit of dirt on them. Not necessarily regarding Shanquella's death, but their own personal dirt. Okay? I'm going to leave. Yes, family too. Yes, family too. And I'm going to get to that, which is why I believe this case is one of the ones that will be swept under the rug, and it has to be for a number of reasons. See, when we talk about discovery in criminal cases, so first of all, this is a criminal case in Mexico, all right? Classified as a femicide, which I now believe was classified on purpose on the behalf of Mexico, because this is normal. Shanquella's 1 in 1,000. Not to say that she's not important to us, but she damn sure isn't important to Mexico. All right? We already talked about that property and that villa and who owns a lot of the resorts and the real estate in Mexico. All right? Look up my last video, and it talks about the money trail. There's more than meets the eye. So you see the reason why the family, let me go ahead and jump into, so there's more than meets the eye, which takes me to point number 4, the parents and the family. Y'all, I've been doing this for a long time, but there's some bloggers that have done a hell of a job of showing you evidence. And sometimes we can be so emotional that we don't want to hear the evidence. Now, evidence is facts. It has nothing to do with how I feel or how you feel. And unfortunately, when we think about how did Shanquella, number one, end up in Cabo with people that she don't fuck with, but Khalil, I'll tell you how. Number one, Shanquella, unfortunately, ran with the wrong crowd. Unfortunately, even if you don't count the Cabo Six, let's start with her own friends. Have you heard one of her friends come forward publicly on her behalf? I'll wait. I haven't. I haven't. What about a cousin? I haven't. And if I stand corrected, hey, I'll take that L. I haven't. And there's a reason why that these people have been so quiet. And this is not a smear campaign. That's because these people cannot afford to expose themselves. Unfortunately, I told you guys that I felt like all of this had to do with the C word, cartel, a little bit of drop shipping, and a little bit of that. Y'all, go to, what's her name? Miss Lowdown, her page. She put some proof out there a few months ago. Now, I'll come from a different angle of the Shanquella Robinson case. I take a different approach, and mine is neither right and hers is neither wrong. But facts are facts. She put some facts out there. She showed you some pictures, and it appears that Shanquella had her own little operation. You get what I'm saying? So, in order for her family and her parents to really push for hardcore justice, that means that they would muddy her name in the process of the authorities, meaning the FBI, digging up who was Shanquella. So at some point, they had to accept this and walk away. That's initially I had a lot of questions, and I'm like, how come they didn't take that $250,000 that they received by GoFundMe and go to Mexico and raise some hell? You know, like what's that girl's name that went missing in Aruba? Natalie Holloway. You remember her parents were over there every day, and they didn't even have GoFundMe. They had to drain their bank accounts dry, and I guarantee you they did not have $250,000. Where am I going with this? Initially, I noticed. I said, "Why is Shanquella's family?" And this is not an attack. This is just me saying this is wrong. What was done to her? They need to take that money. They need to be on the first thing smoking, and they need to raise some hell at that resort to get to the bottom of this. And now I realize this is very sensitive. This is a very touchy thing because them pushing too hard exposes Shanquella. And at the end of the day, when you think about it from the angle of her appearance, what's more important? Me messing up the legacy and the name of my daughter, or just accepting it for what it is and keeping her name very, very beautifully. So Shanquella's parents and Shanquella's friends and Shanquella's family were very limited in how much pushback they could actually do, how vocal they could actually be, because then they would have had to expose some very bad decisions that Shanquella made in her life. Does this justify her death? Absolutely not. But sometimes you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them. And I think her friends and family and her parents decided to fold them.